Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Always fun to be back.
Today, we're going to be diving into mind maps,
Ooh.
but not just like how to draw them pretty or anything like that.
Okay.
Um, we are going straight to the source. Tony Buzan in his book, Mind Maps at Work.
Ah, the master.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we figured who better to learn about mind maps from than the guy who created the technique.
Right.
And we really wanted to focus on how these things can unlock some serious brain power in a work setting.
Very cool.
So have you ever just felt swamped, like drowning in a massive to-do list?
Oh, all the time.
Or maybe you're hitting a wall with a problem and you just can't seem to find a solution?
Yep.
Or maybe you're trying to make sense of a ton of information and it's just not clicking.
I feel seen.
Well, mind maps just might be that secret weapon you need to conquer all of those things and more.
Interesting.
And lucky for us, we have an expert here who not only knows this book inside and out, but also uses mind maps in their own work life to stay organized and productive.
Absolutely.
So maybe we can start with like the most basic question.
Sure.
What exactly AASA is a mind map?
So it's not just fancy note-taking. It's more about creating a visual representation of how our brains naturally think
How's that?
through association.
Okay.
So instead of these rigid linear notes that we're all used
The
to.
kind we all took in school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're designed to mirror our natural thought processes, which are anything but linear.
So instead of a plain old grocery list,
Right.
it's more like a web connecting all the ingredients by recipe or by store aisle or even by meal type.
That's a great way to put it.
It's like organized chaos.
In a sense, and by tapping into this organic structure, we actually activate both sides of the brain.
Interesting.
So we're blending logic and organization with creativity.
Hmm.
That's what sets mind maps apart from traditional note-taking, which can feel very restrictive.
Right. It's just like bullet point, bullet point, bullet point.
Exactly.
Right. That makes sense in theory. But Bazan's book is full of these examples that honestly sound almost too good to be true.
I know what you mean.
So do mind maps really deliver, like in real-life situations?
Well, that's what I find so fascinating about them, is that these aren't just hypothetical situations.
Right.
He talks about Con Edison using this massive mind map to coordinate restoring power to all of Manhattan after a blackout.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine?
It's like I can barely organize my desk drawer, let alone a city's power grid during a blackout.
Exactly.
That level of complexity must have felt overwhelming for them.
Absolutely. And it just shows how mind maps can help break down even the most intricate problems into manageable actions.
Okay.
He also talks about this restaurant chain called Mex.
Okay.
They were on the verge of bankruptcy,
Yikes.
and they used mind mapping to brainstorm solutions and completely turn their business around.
Wow, those are some pretty dramatic turnarounds.
They are.
So are these just like isolated incidents? Or is there a wider trend of people using mind maps this way?
It's definitely becoming more and more common.
Really?
In fact, Buzan even mentions how Fortune 500 companies like IBM and HSBC,
Big names.
huge companies, are incorporating mind maps into their operations as well.
Interesting.
So it
Yeah.
seems like they're really catching on across all sorts of industries.
Wow. Okay, so those are some pretty impressive stories. But I gotta ask, like, how can mind maps help someone like me in my daily work life?
Right.
It's not like I'm managing blackouts or rescuing multinational companies.
Well, that's a great question, and that's where the practical application of mind maps really comes in.
Okay.
So think about something as simple as your daily to-do list,
Right.
or even a complex project timeline.
Okay.
A mind map can actually transform those into a more engaging and visual roadmap, making the whole process less daunting and more approachable.
You know, that's interesting because I tend to avoid those long lists.
I hear you.
But a mind map, it feels more like a puzzle waiting to be solved.
Exactly.
It's definitely more visually appealing.
And it's not just about planning.
Oh.
When you're faced with a really difficult problem, a mind map can help you break free from that rigid linear thinking,
All right.
allowing you to visualize the issue from multiple angles
Okay.
and often uncover those aha moments.
With brainstorming, but visual.
It's all about fostering that creative problem solving.
It's like those detective shows.
Yes.
Where they have that giant board with all the photos and the red string connecting the clues, and suddenly the whole case becomes clear.
You got it. And Buzan even introduces this framework called TEFCAS.
TEFTES.
It stands for Trial Event, Feedback, Check, Adjust, Success.
That's a mouthful.
It is.
But it sounds interesting.
It's designed to work hand in hand with mind maps
Okay.
to encourage you to learn from each step and adapt as you go.
So it's not about getting it perfect the first time.
Not at all.
It's about embracing that continuous learning process
Absolutely.
and using those insights to refine our approach.
Exactly.
That's something we can all benefit from, not just at work, but in our personal lives too.
Couldn't agree more.
So tell me more about TEF tests.
Okay, so the trial stage involves brainstorming possible solutions using your mind map.
All right, so you've got your ideas laid out visually,
Exactly, and then you pick one of those solutions to implement in the event stage.
putting it into action.
Right. Then comes the feedback stage, where you gather information and analyze the results of your trial.
So you're assessing how it went.
Precisely. And then in the check stage, you compare those results against your desired outcome.
Seeing if you're on the right track.
Exactly. And this leads to the adjust stage, where you modify your approach based on the feedback you've received.
Makes sense, tweaking things as needed.
Yes, and by repeating this process, you move closer and closer to success.
So it's not a straight line to success, it's more of a cycle
It is. It's a structured but flexible approach.
that acknowledges that problem solving isn't always linear.
Precisely. And the beauty of TEFCAS is that it can be applied to anything,
Really?
from small everyday tasks to big complex projects.
Okay.
It's all about embedding that mindset of continuous improvement.
All right, so we've covered planning and problem solving.
We have.
What about presentations?
Presentations.
Those can be terrifying.
They can be.
Can mind maps help with those too?
Absolutely. Imagine this. Ditching those boring PowerPoint slides
Yes.
that are crammed with bullet points.
Please.
And instead, you present your ideas using a dynamic mind map.
That's interesting.
Not only will it captivate your audience, but it can actually help you recall key points more effortlessly.
Really?
It's about transforming presentations from a chore into a conversation.
I like that.
More engaging for everyone.
No more frantically clicking through slides.
No.
Trying to remember what comes next.
Exactly.
A mind map would definitely streamline things and
Yeah.
keep the audience engaged.
Sure.
And what about teamwork?
Teamwork.
Can mind maps help with that too?
They can be a game changer for teamwork.
Really? How so?
Think of it as creating a shared visual language,
Interesting.
leading to more effective brainstorming sessions, clearer communication, and ultimately more productive collaboration.
So instead of relying on long emails or confusing spreadsheets,
Exactly.
a mind map could be like a shared visual space
Right.
where everyone can contribute their ideas and actually understand what each other is thinking.
Precisely. It's about fostering a deeper level of understanding and connection within teams.
That sounds incredibly helpful,
It is.
especially these days with so many people working remotely.
Absolutely.
It's more important than ever to have tools that can facilitate clear communication
Couldn't agree more.
and seamless collaboration no matter where you are.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about how mind maps can help us plan, solve problems, give presentations, and even work better together as a team.
We have.
But Buzan also talks about how they can be used for personal growth and career development.
That's right.
Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Sure. He suggests this really interesting exercise
Okay.
where you create a mind map of individuals or businesses that you admire,
Interesting.
and you focus on identifying the qualities and achievements that really resonate with you. And this can actually provide valuable insights into your own aspirations and values.
I like that.
It's like creating a visual representation of your ideal future self.
It's like a vision board, but for your career.
Exactly. And it's not just about visualizing the outcome.
Oh.
You're also mapping out the qualities and steps required to get there.
That's a good point.
And this process of reflection and visualization can be really powerful.
I could see that.
By identifying your role models and analyzing their journeys,
Okay.
you gain a deeper understanding of what it takes to achieve your own goals.
It's about learning from the best
Absolutely.
and adapting those lessons to your own path.
Precisely.
We often get so caught up in just focusing on the end goal,
Right.
but taking the time to analyze the journeys of those we admire
Yes.
can provide some really valuable insights into the steps and the mindset that's required for success.
I couldn't agree more.
So it's not just about what they achieved,
It's not.
it's about how they got there. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here talking about the power of mind maps in the workplace.
We have.
But I'm curious about a specific challenge that Buzan describes in the book that really stuck with me.
Okay, I'm listening.
He talks about this bookstore manager
Okay.
who has to deal with a really angry customer
Oh, no.
right before Christmas.
Worst time of year for that.
I know. Talk about stressful.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened?
Well, tell me more about this angry customer.
So the customer had pre-ordered a book,
Oh.
but it turns out the book is missing and there are no replacements available.
Oh, no. That's a nightmare.
Right. especially right before Christmas.
The worst.
So now this manager has to figure out how to resolve this situation quickly
Under pressure.
while also considering the customer's frustration
Of course.
and the store's reputation
Right.
and even the well-being of their staff.
That's a lot to juggle.
It is.
So how did they use a mind map to help?
Well, Buzan explains how the manager actually used a mind map to break down the problem
Okay.
and consider all these different factors.
Smart.
It helped them stay calm amidst all the chaos
I could see that.
and allowed them to analyze the situation from multiple perspectives.
So instead of just reacting emotionally,
Exactly.
they were able to think strategically.
Right, it's like creating a mental checklist of everything that needs to be addressed.
Makes sense.
And through this process, they came up with a solution
They did.
that appeased the customer, protected the store's reputation,
You can do better.
and supported their team.
Wow. That's a win-win-win.
It really is. It's a perfect example of how powerful, clear-headed thinking can be,
Especially in a stressful situation.
especially under pressure.
I'm convinced.
Me too. Mind maps are my new secret weapon for those kinds of situations.
They're pretty handy.
But Buzan doesn't stop there.
He doesn't.
He goes on to talk about using mind maps for personal growth and career development as well.
Now that's interesting.
He suggests this exercise where you create a mind map of individuals or businesses that you admire.
Okay, I like where this is going.
The idea is to identify those qualities and achievements that resonate with you.
So you're essentially mapping out your ideal future self.
Exactly. It's like creating a blueprint for your dream career.
And by analyzing the paths of those who have already achieved what you want,
Right.
you can glean valuable insights into the steps and mindset that are required for success.
It's all about learning from the best
Absolutely.
and adapting those lessons to your own journey.
I love that.
We often get so fixated on the destination
The end goal.
that we forget to pay attention to the journey itself.
Right. The process is just as important.
And that's where analyzing the journeys of those we admire can be so valuable
It can really open your eyes to new possibilities.
and help us avoid potential pitfalls.
Absolutely. It's like having a mentor guiding you along the way.
Now, Buzan goes on to talk about something that's really important,
What's that?
embracing change,
Oh, that's a big one.
both personally and professionally.
Right, because change is inevitable.
Exactly. It's a part of life.
And it can be scary.
It can be, especially in today's world where things are changing so rapidly.
So how do we deal with that?
Well, Buzan's advice is to actually visualize the change process using a mind map.
Interesting.
It's about breaking down complex transitions into smaller, more manageable steps,
Okay.
identifying potential obstacles,
Right.
and generating possible solutions.
So instead of fearing the unknown,
That's
you're
right.
actually creating a plan to navigate it.
It's about turning fear into proactive planning
I love that.
and equipping yourself with the tools and strategies to face whatever challenges come your way.
So you're not just reacting to change
You're embracing it.
with a sense of purpose and direction.
Exactly. And he gives this great example in the book
What's that?
about a company called Liechtenstein Global Trust.
Okay, I've heard of them.
They fully embraced mind maps.
Really? Like across the board.
Everything from customer records and presentations to problem solving and strategic planning.
Wow. They went all in.
They did. And it transformed their entire organization.
That's impressive.
It really is. They saw improvements in communication,
Makes sense.
streamlined processes,
Efficient.
and a more collaborative work environment.
That's amazing.
It's a perfect example of how powerful visual thinking can be
For sure.
and how it can really unlock the potential within an organization.
Absolutely, when everyone's on the same page.
And speaking of unlocking potential,
Yes.
let's circle back to something we talked about earlier,
What's that?
achieving that work-life balance.
Oh, that's so
It's
much.
not just about professional success.
It's not.
It's about creating a life that feels fulfilling and well-rounded.
Right, where you feel happy and balanced.
Exactly. And Buzan dedicates a whole chapter in the book to this.
He does.
He does.
Mm.
He provides practical advice and techniques for using mind maps to create that balance.
I'm all ears.
Well, he really stresses the importance of making time for personal things.
Makes sense.
Hobbies, relaxation, spending time with loved ones.
Those are the things that really matter.
They are, but it's so easy to get caught up in the daily grind and neglect those things.
It is. We've all been there.
So how can mind maps help?
Well, he suggests creating a mind map
Okay.
that visually represents all the different areas of your life.
Like work, family, health.
Exactly. And by mapping it out this way,
Right.
you can ensure that no single area is being neglected.
It's like creating a visual reminder to nurture every aspect of your being.
Precisely. And it can be really eye-opening to see it all laid out like that.
It can help you identify areas where you might need to make some adjustments.
Right, so instead of just reacting to the demands of life,
You're proactively designing a life that you love.
that aligns with your values and priorities.
I love that.
And Buzan doesn't just stop at the visual representation.
Cool.
He also provides practical tips for things like managing stress,
Oh, that's a good one.
incorporating physical activity into your routine,
Important.
and even working remotely with greater efficiency.
Very relevant these days.
It is. He really covers it all.
It sounds like he's thought of everything.
He really has. This book is a treasure trove of practical advice.
Well, it's been a pleasure diving into mind maps at work with you today.
The pleasure was all mine.
We've covered so much ground.
From boosting productivity at work to creating a more balanced life.
It seems like mind maps really do offer a versatile toolkit for navigating the complexities of modern life.
They do, and I hope our listeners are feeling inspired to give them a try.
Me too, because the real magic happens when you start applying these concepts to your own unique situation
Exactly. Don't be afraid to experiment.
and discover what works best for you.
That's the beauty of mind maps. They're so adaptable.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Time flies when you're having fun mapping.
It does. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of mind maps.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep those minds mapping and embrace the power of visual thinking.